The Wizard of Oz, the most beloved movie of all time. If you don't know this, then you're too young to watch this video. I've always wanted to make an Iceberg video, and a video about Oz, so I looked for a Wizard of Oz iceberg, and somehow there isn't one already, so I had to make my own. For those who don't know, an iceberg video is you look at this chart, everything on the top of the chart is stuff everyone knows, and you go down and down until the bottom where stuff starts to become more obscure. Starting in the clouds, this is what everyone knows about the series. Izzy, and the Me First and the Gimme Gimmes. I put these two here because they're the most famous covers of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. You've definitely heard these two covers before in your life. The Wiz. The Wiz is an all-black adaptation of The Wizard of Oz, starting as a Broadway musical in 1974 and then later adapted into a movie in 1978. A Munchkin hanged himself in the film. This is one of the most iconic creepypasta horror stories from the movie you always hear about on the internet. It started with the 50th anniversary VHS tape. During the reprise of We're Off to See the Wizard with the Tin Man, you can see this little blob in the background, and everyone assumed that it was a munchkin who hung itself. This rumor continues to this day, but in reality, if you look at the scene, even from the VHS tape, no, it's a bird. And even if looking at a modern HD cut of the film, it's a peacock. I know the Munchkins weren't treated the best, but if you think if this is just like an edit they made to cover it up, like Dorothy and Gain walks past the scene, they would have saw the Munchkin, so if he did happen, they wouldn't have put it in the movie. Burn the Witch. This refers to Margaret Hamilton, who played the Wicked Witch, suffering from severe burns on her face and her hands during her first exit from Munchkinland. And she was hospitalized for 3 months. It wasn't the take they actually used in the movie, it was just in case they lost that clip, a backup. Margaret Hamilton then refused to do any stunts as the witch, so they got a stunt double to do the skywriting scene. And how they pulled it off was basically they duct taped the broom on top of like a smoke machine. But then the stunt double's dress got caught in the machine and it blew up. Luckily, the actress survived. Also, the Wicked Witch's makeup was made from copper, which burns your skin. So she had to eventually start wearing gloves instead of putting it on her hands. Abandoned Park. Land of Oz is a somewhat abandoned park. It's somewhat abandoned because it's still open twice a year. Located in North Carolina, it's kind of creepy and this is a place of such colorful and familiar characters, but it's abandoned nearly the entire year. I would love to go. Scarecrow Gun. This refers to after the wizard sends the gang to go deal with the witch, the scarecrow brings a gun. Every time someone notices it for the first time, they're like, what the heck? 1939, referring to the year the original musical came out. It's one of those movies that literally everyone on Earth has seen and loves. It's basically taken over the entire franchise. You can't think of Wizard of Oz without this film. Feminist. The series shows a lot of women in power, so a lot of people claim that this is a feminist story. Which I do believe, but also I think it's funny because this is the same series that has Ginger and her army, who are a parody of your stereotypical militant feminist. Wicked. Wicked is a Broadway play based off of The Wizard of Oz that takes the point of view of the Wicked Witch. I don't know anyone who's actually seen it, but the reason I put it up this high on the list is because it's one of those musicals you always see promoted in New York, kind of like Cats. Like, no one's actually seen it, but if you show them the poster, everyone will understand what it is. Dark Side of the Rainbow. This refers to, apparently, if you play Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon at the third line roar at the MGM movie at the beginning of the film, apparently, the songs are all meant to sync up to the film. Like Money plays when Dorothy first goes to Oz, and Lunatic plays when the Scarecrow is first introduced. I guess it kind of works, but it is completely unintentional, going by what the members of Pink Floyd say. claiming it's just about as ridiculous as playing The Wall during Ben-Hur. It was all just a dream. The 1939 film ends with it being revealed that all the events in Oz were just a dream. It's one of the most famous movie endings of all time, and it's completely original to the film, leaving it ambiguous if Oz really exists, which in the books it 100% with no hesitation did. L. Frank Baum. L. Frank Baum is the guy who wrote the original book, The Wonderful Land of Oz, and 1900, and most of the Oz sequel books from there. Descending down the iceberg to the peak. Sesame Street, 847. This refers to the lost episode of Sesame Street, which would have featured Margaret Hamilton reprising her role as the Wicked Witch. It would have been about the Wicked Witch accidentally losing her broom in Sesame Street, and something gets it back because of the kindness of the people of Sesame Street, and she learns to be nicer. But parents still thought the Wicked Witch was too creepy for kids, so had the episode banned. As of June 2022, it has been unofficially released. Despite this ban, it didn't stop them from making the Muppets in Wizard of Oz, which is another entry here. Return to Oz. Return to Oz is a sequel to the 1939 film. Based on the 1904 book The Land of Oz and 1907 book Ozma of Oz. It's very surreal and very creepy, and I absolutely adore it. The Jitterbug. This is the most famous deleted scene from the 1939 film, featuring the gang getting attacked by the Jitterbug and a whole song and dance because of it. It was very nearly in the film, but it was cut because the dance in the film was seen as probably gonna age very poorly. The audio's intact, and the visuals are technically still, but they are very poor quality. Oz the Great and Powerful. A 2013 film showing the origins of the Wizard of Oz himself, played by James Franco, as well as the origins of the Wicked Witch, played by Mila Kunis. Jerry Marin. Jerry Marin was the Munchkin in Green in the Lollipop Guild. He was the last surviving actor of the original 39 film to have a speaking role. Deke Animated Series. Yes, that's how you pronounce that. Airing in 1990, The Wizard of Oz by Deke was an animated series that lasted for 13 episodes. Sci-Fi Channel's Tin Man. It's a Sci-Fi Channel original following the Wizard of Oz characters in a dark, edgy setting. But unlike a lot of adult, edgy Wizard of Oz retellings, this one's actually kind of good. Alan Cummings is one of the best scarecrows. Lottery. This refers to the oddly high amount of different scratch-off tickets and lotteries based around the Wizard of Oz. Red or silver. This refers to the fact that in the book, Dorothy had silver shoes, but in the film, she had ruby red slippers. This change was done to show off the Technicolor because remember, color in film was brand new at the time, so they wanted to show off all the bright colors they could. Wizard of Oz for the SNES. Wizard of Oz for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System exists. It's regarded as the worst game of the console, thanks to its terrible gameplay, its terrible levels, and terrible just everything. Christian or atheist? This is the most controversial thing I put on the list so far, but what this is referring to, many people can see the film in a symbolism for Christianity. Like, following the yellow brick road leads to enlightenment. The Emerald City is heaven. The Wicked Witch represents paganism and tries to steer people off the path of enlightenment. And when she's melting because of water, it's like holy water. But at the same time, people say it could be symbolism for atheism. The same thing with the Enlightenment being the yellow brick road, but here it leads them to find out that God, or the wizard, is a phony. And they had all they wanted all along. They didn't need someone to tell them that they already had it. The Wicked Witch is kind of like a priest or someone's family member trying to steer them off the path of enlightenment. And in the book, the Emerald City, or Heaven, is also fake, because it's not actually made out of emeralds. Everyone just calls it that, because the wizard forces them to wear green glasses. As an atheist myself, I can understand both point of views, actually. Depending on who you are, I think it works, reading the film in either way. Also, it's a fairy tale for kids. Not everything needs to be about religion. Descending a level into the sea. Zardoz! Zardoz is a very, very weird movie. From 1974, it's probably best known as that film that said, "The gun is good, the penis is evil," and being referenced on Rick and Morty. The reason it's on this list is because there's a part of the movie where Sean Connery's character finds the wonderful land of Oz. And he covers up some words and finds out that Wizard of Oz, Zardoz. Ray Bolger was the original Tin Man, and Buddy Epstein was the original Scarecrow. And Buddy Epstein as the Tin Man. Ray Bolger was originally cast as the Tin Man, but after seeing the script, and he wanted to be the Scarecrow because of his dancing moves, so he decided to swap roles. So Buddy Epstein became the Tin Man and made it into early production, and even sang If I Only Had a Heart. But problems quickly arose because apparently back then, non-toxic silver paint didn't exist, so they would have painted his face with like gel with silver in it. The silver got into his eyes and lungs, and he had to be rushed to the hospital. He was there so long that they eventually decided to recast him, with Jack Haley, who became the Tin Man in the final product. The Egyptian trailer. This refers to the Egyptian trailer of Wizard of Oz. This is notable because it features a lost deleted scene, where the Emerald City Guard turns his mustache upwards, which was meant to be in the original film, where apparently he will first be like, alright, it's time to switch out the guards. He walks off screen, turns his mustache up, and comes back, still telling the gang to go away. Despite this being cut for time, you can technically still see it in the movie. The Oz Vlog. The Oz Vlog is a very inactive YouTube and a very, very active TikTok account that talks all things Wizard of Oz related. Many anime. This refers to the oddly high amount of different animes based on the Wizard of Oz. Also, I guess when I'm on the topic, there's the 7 Seas Entertainment manga and light novel. Dorothy's Return. Dorothy's Return is an adaptation of Dorothy of Oz. It's not great. Real lion fur. This refers to the fact that the Cowardly Lion is made out of real lion fur. There were several methods they were considering using to bring the lion to life, but they eventually settled on making a suit out of real lion fur because they couldn't make it look right with fake fur. They then realized the fact that every lion pelt is unique in their own way, so they only had one suit, so they had to film all of the lion scenes in chronological order. Super Sentai and Power Ranger references. A lot of people says that Mighty Morphin Power Rangers takes a lot of inspiration from Wizard of Oz. Like Zordon being a wizard who's a head in a giant tube, Rhea Repulsa being an evil witch, and has a flying monkey minion, even though Goldar is meant to be a sphinx or a griffin. Really, only Zordon's a reference, but in Super Sentai, there is a direct reference to Wizard of Oz. In Juden Sentai Kyryuger, all the main villains are directly based off of the Wizard of Oz gang. Let's continue. Where does the red brick road go? As you can see, the yellow brick road also has a red part to it. It was never explained where that goes, so it became this massive internet meme to where it goes. But in somewhat canonical art, it is revealed that the red brick road is just the Munchkin Road. There was also apparently a cancelled Red Brick Road show, which would have been a dark, edgy Oz story for some reason, with a witch assassin and a weird-looking Tin Man. And no one's talked about it since 2013, so it's dead. Asbestos. The snow used in the movie is made out of asbestos, which would have been the norm for the time for fake snow, and it is actually awful for you. NBC's Emerald City. Yet another serious adult take on the Wizard of Oz. taking away the imagination of Oz for boring normal people. Ruby. Ruby is a 3D American anime by Rooster Teeth. Several characters within the series are based off the Wizard of Oz, such as Professor Ozpin, who is a wizard, Oz, and his real name is Ozma, and he's against the evil witch Salem. There's a character named Crow who has wobbly knees. His name's Crow with a Q because cool. There's a character named Ironwood, like the Tin Woodsman, and he's more machine now than man. There's a lion person who's a coward, and there's straight up a character named Glinda Goodwitch. Marvel and DC. Marvel and DC Comics' first crossover was a dual adaptation of The Wizard of Oz. Dorothy's doppelganger. All the other characters in Kansas have a doppelganger in Oz. Many people who've only seen the 1939 film question this. Some saying it might even be the Wicked Witch of the East. But people who are more familiar with the franchise outside of the original know that it was actually Ozma. Turkish Wizard of Oz. Little Aishi and the Magical Dwarfs in the Land of Dreams, or Turkish Wizard of Oz, is a rip-off adaptation of Wizard of Oz, but in Turkish. In similar veins to more famous Turkish Star Wars, but even more so. Only had a brain extended. This refers to If I Only Had a Brain had an extended cut, which is the only good quality deleted scene still existing of the 39 film. Featuring Toto rolling a giant pumpkin at the scarecrow, causing him to jump all the way in the air and bounce on a bunch of rubber band fences. No place like Google. This is a cute little Easter egg. If you look up Wizard of Oz on Google, you see the little red slippers. And if you click them, the screen will spin, and now everything's black and white, and now the slippers are replaced by a tornado. You just have to click the tornado and everything goes back to normal. Cartoon Lion. One of the first ideas for bringing the lion to life was to actually animate him, which kind of makes me think of motion capture, but it was eventually decided they shouldn't do it because it would have messed up the timing of all the jokes. Because motion capture didn't exist back then. Shirley Temple was almost Dorothy. Shirley Temple, as we all know from that one commercial that used to play on Cartoon Network all the time, was the studio's favorite to play Dorothy, but the director had a dead set to be Judy Garland. And thanks to scheduling issues and some weird behind-the-scenes stuff, Judy Garland finally got the role. Horse Jello. The horse of another color, of course, turns into different colors. And luckily they didn't cover a horse in probably toxic chemicals that dye at different colors. Instead, they covered the horse in jello, which is just so cute. Literature's first robot. This refers to TikTok, not the app, but the character first appearing in Ozma of Oz, and later in Return to Oz. Because Ozma of Oz came out in 1907, TikTok, being an artificial mechanical life form, does count as one of the first robots ever created. Many who don't know that much about the Wizard of Oz might say that the Tin Man is also a robot, but that leads into our next entry on the next layer discussing that's not true. He wasn't always made from tin. The Tin Woodsman was originally a human. The story goes the woodsman, minus tin, fell in love with a munchkin girl. But then the Wicked Witch cursed him to cut off his own limbs every time he swung his axe, until eventually he was nothing but tin replacements, making him a cyborg. L. Frank Baum's coat. For the 39 movie, for Professor Marvel, they were looking for a shabby, rundown coat. So they went to the secondhand store, and they got just a random coat. They found the initials on the coat, and they realized they found L. Frank Baum's coat. Which is, yes, that one in the film. After the Wizard. After the Wizard was a 2011 independent film about an orphan girl who copes with her life by fantasizing that she's Dorothy and the Tin Man, Scarecrow, and Lion are coming to rescue her. Blonde Dorothy. In the original 1939 film, Dorothy went into production with blonde hair. But eventually it was decided that Judy Garland should rock her normal brown hair. The Baum Bugle. The Baum Bugle is the official journal of the International Wizard of Oz Club. It's your typical fandom magazine. It talks about Wizard of Oz and Wizard of Oz related stuff. Deleted Somewhere Over the Rainbow reprise. After Dorothy was captured by the Wicked Witch, she was meant to have a reprise of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, but in a sadder tone. The audio to the scene still exists, and only a handful of very poor quality photos of the scene still exist. Willy Wonka is the wizard's son. This is just a joke theory saying that Willy Wonka is similar to the wizard from Wizard of Oz. Black Wiz. This refers to the Season 2 finale of Black Dynamite the Animated Series being a parody of The Wiz. Ambrose Schindler. Ambrose Schindler was a college football player who was also the Tinman stunt devil and a Winky guard. He was one of the last surviving members of the original cast. Bottom of the iceberg. Oz films before 1939. There would have been 39 years between the publication of the original book and the classic film, so of course there were films before then. One notable film being the 1925 version by Larry Seaman. Seriously. Lost in Oz. This refers to a failed 2000s pilot and a Amazon original 2015 unrelated animated series, which I put on the list higher up because it actually made the series, unlike the unfinished and abandoned Tim Burton pilot about a class of characters lost in Oz. So that's 3 separate things called Lost in Oz. The other Return to Oz from 1964. There was another film in 1964 called Return to Oz that was animated and a sequel to Tales of the Wizard of Oz by Rankin Bass. The Steam Engines of Oz. This is a steampunk themed series based off of The Wizard of Oz that was originally a comic book and then turned into an animated movie starring William Shatner, Ron Perlman, and Scott McNeil. Somewhere Over the Rainbow was almost cut. It almost was. Apocalypse Oz. This refers to a fan film called Apocalypse Oz, which was a parody of Wizard of Oz and Apocalypse Now. Crow Killer. This refers to, in the book, the Scarecrow snaps the necks of all the crows that pecked at him. Oz Kids and the Brave Little Toaster. Oz Kids is a forgotten old cartoon about the kids of the Wizard of Oz characters. The Brave Little Toaster comes up because in the Christmas special, randomly the Brave Little Toaster characters are there because it's done by the same animation studio. Below the Iceberg. Ultima's 8 Virtues. Ultima is one of the most influential video games of all time, especially for RPG games, but that doesn't matter right now. What we're talking about are the 8 virtues featured in the game. The 8 virtues are aspects of the 3 principles of truth, love, and courage. The 8 virtues of the Avatar are honesty, compassion, valor, justice, sacrifice, honor, spirituality, and humility. They're best understood with more of a Venn diagram. The virtues and principles were directly based off of The Wizard of Oz. Truth, love, and courage are similar to a brain, a heart, and courage. Walt Disney's Rainbow Road to Oz. Walt Disney's Bifrost was an attempt by Walt Disney to bring the Disney spirit to The Wizard of Oz with live action. It was eventually abandoned and all the sets and props were used for Babes in Toyland, and much of the money reserved for this film was given to instead Mary Poppins. Dorothy's dress was found in a shoebox. One of 6 of Judy Garland's original dresses was given to Catholic University, where they casually lost it for several decades until they finally found it casually in a shoebox. And now there's some drama llama stuff about who actually owns the dress, like the descendant of the priest in this photo says that she owns it, and the school says they own it. And I'm saying that they got this dress in the 1970s, they should have framed it and put it on a wall, not just casually put it in the drama department to get lost. Attempts to get the book banned. There have been several attempts over the years to get the Wizard of Oz banned. And of course it's by your usual suspects of overly conservative and overly religious people who don't like the fact that it has witchcraft, magic, and women in power. Bimetallic theory. This was a theory proposed by Henry Littlefield, a teacher who read the book, and him and his class came to the conclusion that it was symbolism for the Gilded Age when the book came out, and bimetallicism. It was an economic theory of the time because money was still tied to gold. People thought that they should also have silver added to it to increase inflation. In the book, Dorothy had her silver slippers walking on the yellow or golden brick road to Progress, the Emerald City. Dorothy and the Munchkins represent the common person, oppressed by the evil wicked witch who represents banking and corruption. The Scarecrow represents the common farmer, looked down upon as being dumb, but is actually a lot smarter than anyone gives him credit. The Tin Man represents the industrial worker, hard-working and strong, but he's oppressed by the evil wicked witch, who again represents the corporate elite, who dehumanize their workers. The Cowardly Lion represents William Jennings Bryan, the Democratic nominee for the 1896 election. He believed in bimetallicism, but he was just not courageous enough to take on William McKinley, the corporate elite. He was scared that he might scare people away with his ideas. The Emerald City represents the government. It looks great and glamorous from afar, so powerful, but it's actually ran by illusions. OZ, Oz, also can be ounces, like silver and gold. The Wizard of Oz is a jab at the Gilded Age and unrestricted capitalism, and why we have to stop letting it oppress us and fight for our rights. But this is only a theory. Historian William Lynch thought of the complete and utter opposite, and thought that it was glorifying capitalism. But either way, L. Frank Baum just wanted to make an American fairy tale. You can interpret it however you want. But also note that L. Frank Baum is a pretty progressive guy. He was one of the first celebrities to openly support the women's suffrage movement. Dorothy Goes to Hell. Dorothy Goes to Hell is a fan-made little animated thing by James Rolfe, the angry video game nerd. It's a very bizarre, crazy, disturbing, offensive animated film. If you know anything about Spigonias, it's basically that kind of style. Early 2000s internet humor of familiar-looking character PMGs floating around doing something stupid and offensive. Unlike Spigonia, it doesn't have text-to-speech voices, but I think Dorothy Goes to Hell does fit into a similar situation as Spigonia, because again, it's an early 2000s internet humor of familiar-looking characters floating around doing something stupid and offensive. And at the very bottom of the list, the most obscure Wizard of Oz thing that at least I could think of, the fairy logs and radio play. This would have been the very first adaptation into film of Wizard of Oz. Releasing September 24th, 1908 in Grand Rapids, Michigan, it would have adapted the first 3 books, and apparently L. Frank Baum was heavily involved in this play. It would have projected the movie as L. Frank Baum narrated it. A fairy log is a play on a travel log, and radio play is their fancy term for saying that they colorized it. Supposedly, this is the first movie ever to be completely colorized from start to end, instead of just randomly tinting it here and there, or only having certain parts colorized, which was the style of the time. But apparently there have also been a black and white version for, I guess, poorer theaters or something. And yes, it will have adapted the first 3 books. So we had the Tin Man, Scarecrow, Lion, but we also would have had Jack Pumpkinhead, Tick-Tock, and the Gnome King. Supposedly, it also would have been the first movie to have an original score created for the movie, and it had the first depiction of a map of Oz. I keep saying supposedly and would have because this movie is completely lost, other than a handful of photos and a description. At the time, it would have been a complete and utter bomb of a film, probably because they didn't put Wizard of Oz in the title so they couldn't get marquee value from it. Last time it was released was in 1925. Since then, the film has seemingly been lost and possibly destroyed, either by accident, which was very common in the time, or probably by choice because L. Frank Baum might have been embarrassed by it because it's a thing that cost him a lot of money. But hopefully one day something turns up in his archives. Either way, thank you for watching my Iceberg video. I had a lot of fun making this, and I hope I brought you a lot of fun by talking about it. I love The Wizard of Oz, and I might actually do some more icebergs if you guys want to see some more.